Using high school physics to prove we went to the moon. Entire books, many videos, and thousands of hours of time have been wasted building this conspiracy theory devoted to debunking the Apollo moon mission as a grand government conspiracy. We have spent much digital ink debunking the claims of flat earthers. They claim that the Earth's physical geometry is that of a flat disk. Okay, something that's been debunked since the time of the Greeks, 2,200 years ago. We're not going to rehash that here. All the hot air, all the books written, the hundreds of videos, hours upon hours of nonsense, all those blathering on about government conspiracies, how they gave up their careers to expose NASA, etc., etc. All their arguments and efforts destroyed by a three-line solution to a simple high school physics problem. Welcome, friends. Dr. Jim Daly here, your host, to take you on a journey of discovery using a basic high school physics experiment to prove that we landed a man on the moon. I was in my early teens in 1969 and was on a road trip to Florida with my family, specifically to watch the launch of Apollo 11, the first manned mission to the lunar surface. We all witnessed the liftoff of the mighty Saturn V launch vehicle and felt the Earth shake beneath our feet as the 36-story tall vehicle slowly accelerated away from the launch pad into the azure blue Florida sky. We, along with the whole country and the rest of the world, witnessed the launch. There was no fake, it happened. So where did it go, if not to the moon? I've posed this question to deniers and conspiracy theorists many times without success. Their answers are as varied as they are incorrect and absurd. Their claims insult all of us who witnessed these missions that are part of our collective history, and, more importantly, they insult the legacy of the brave heroes who have slipped the surly bonds of earth to touch the stars. These brave souls, forsaking their own safety, put their own lives at risk for humanity's progress, riding atop a massive controlled explosion to walk on the surface of the moon. We must not allow them or anyone else to edit and rewrite history. Their efforts to debunk the manned-moon missions is such an attempt, and is the reason I post this video. Occam's razor. Occam's razor simply states that the simplest explanation or the least complex tends to be correct. Applying that reasoning to this topic, not a vast, contorted, Hollywood-esque government conspiracy narrative, would go a long way in maintaining a welcome level of sanity. President John F. Kennedy committed this nation to a manned lunar program to realize a manned landing on the moon before the end of the 1960s. I remember it. I lived through it. I was there. It happened. I say this to all the millennials and Gen Zers who think nothing happened before the invention of the internet. Nothing happened before 1980. Everything else is just a fog. It's lost in the fog of history. That's nonsense.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
It happened, we did it then, but surprisingly, we haven't been able to do it again. Why? All attempts, even to put an unmanned robotic lander on the lunar surface, have ended in comedic failure. Why again? The short answer, privatization, the profit motive, combined with the celebration of mediocrity in this country. All the engineers, scientists, mathematicians, physicists, and other professionals who made the success of the Apollo program possible are gone or retired, and we're not replacing them. The claim is that NASA and the US administrations of the day were so bent on beating the Russians at the space game that they would spare no expense at duping an entire generation into believing we went to the moon. We went to the moon 7 times between 1969 and 1972. Of those 7, 6 of them resulted in a successful lunar landing with a 2-man crew exploring the lunar surface. We'll use a video of one of those missions, Apollo 15, for our exercise. We begin by playing the famous hammer and feather drop by Commander David Scott at the conclusion of the last Apollo 15 moonwalk. Commander Scott dropped the hammer and feather from the same drop point. They hit the lunar surface at the same time as predicted and expect the The drop point is 80 centimeters above the surface, the sternum region of an adult male. Now on the moon, there's no atmosphere, there's no air resistance, so the feather and the hammer will hit the surface at the same time. Using the standard distance equation for an object moving under uniform acceleration, d, distance, is equal to 1/2 at squared, where a is acceleration and t is time, we substitute 80 centimeters for d, the distance, 1 second for t, the time it took for the object dropped by Commander Scott to fall the 80 centimeters to the surface, and solve for a, the gravitational field strength of the moon. The result is 1.6 meters per second squared, the moon's local gravitational field strength. Even if this video was produced in a Los Angeles or Miami studio, with all the fake effects they love to mention, the hammer would still fall at 9.8 meters per second square, the gravitational field strength of the Earth. You can't fake this. You can't slow down the video without slowing down the entire frame and everything else in it. No matter where you go on the surface of the Earth, you will have a 9.8 meters per second squared acceleration rate for anything you drop at sea level. Conclusion. The hammer dropped by Commander Scott was in free-fall acceleration according to a mass equal to that of the moon and its physical radius. This cannot be faked by any elaborate Hollywood production. No green screen, no CGI, no photoshopping. This same experiment is repeated routinely in high school and freshman college physics courses everywhere, with the result consistent with the Earth's mass and physical radius, Newton's universal law of gravitation, and second law of motion. The hammer fell at the rate it did because Commander Scott was on the moon. If you were in a production studio in Florida or Los Angeles, it would fall at 9.8 meters per second squared and hit the floor 0.4 seconds later from the same 80 centimeter height. After watching this video, I challenge anyone who still believes the nonsense that we never went to the moon, that it was CGI or photoshopped and produced in an LA or Miami studio, to tell me exactly why they still believe that. Thank you.
This is Dr. Jim Daly of Astronomy for Change. May you come to love the stars too fondly to be fearful of the night. And remember, the Earth is a mote of dust floating in a sunbeam. That's reality. Everything else is just marketing. The great philosopher Plato famously said, astronomy compels the soul to look upward and leads us from this world to another. Astronomy for Change is a non-profit organization whose mission is to effect a positive change through astronomy and science education. It is our belief that by inspiring and empowering current and future generations to become interested and engaged in astronomy and science, this positive change will be realized.
If you enjoyed this video or found it educational or useful, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and sharing the video. These actions on your part are free to do and will help us grow. Also, why not consider supporting us by leaving us a tip or buying us a coffee or perhaps visiting our Patreon page? Any amount would help and would be most appreciated. All the links and details are in the comments section below. And, as always, thanks for watching.